different level, right? I think Kalman sir, you want to contribute something to this?
With no internet, the internet was like only one area, and that was very weak. So you are not spending the whole bunch of time with smartphones on your laptop. You were spending actually real time, real connections with your friends. That is also one of the major factors. The friendship that you build in the first year was there all the time.
Yeah, and I also feel like it really helped separate the first years from the all the 3 years. So it really like brought us together against like we worried, right? In the first year, we knew ragging and all that. It really helped.
Yeah. So I think can
So
we
I
get
think I'm the
started?
more senior here. No, is there
Yeah,
any
yeah.
more?
So
I
I
am.
actually wanted to hear some words of wisdom from you, right, sir?
Sorry.
So
Lot of
Yes.
words of wisdom from Raj
yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Most of the guys have heard also from me in the room. But I would like to piggyback on what everyone said, and especially what Ankit said, that the standards in Triple IT are so high. When 7 pointers go to University of London, there are 10 pointers there.
yeah,
So nothing is lost when you finish at 7 pointer, and Triple IT is just starting.
yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And during college, we all like there's a, I don't know, with 7 pointers there is a charm for 8 pointer. I was a 8 pointer, so there was a heavy charm for being a 9 pointer, right? So every alternate semester I was like 9 pointer, then again back to 8 pointer. But yeah, that's true. Like even if you go to the main like corporate world, then also you'll realize that academically you are stronger being there in triple IT, where the standards are like so high and like everyone is there. It was literally cutthroat. Like I've seen people study very hard during the end sems, during mid sems, and there are a lot of people with like the group study concept that really helps us in the main when you are doing a huddle with your team. So that I actually relate back to my college days when we used to just one night before, we used to sit in a room and everyone like you do these two chapters, we do these two chapters, and then discussing, communicating amongst each other, self teaching each other. So that those kind of things really help in the real world as well.
Correct.
So Vatsal, how is it gonna be today? Like what is the format? How are we gonna do
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, so actually, I wanted to keep it slightly informal, but I
Okay,
think there are
got
roughly
it.
13 attendees also here. But initially, like we will go in the round robin fashion. Obviously, as we discussed with Rai sir, words of wisdom. So everyone like is free to contribute for like 4 to 5 minutes about what we discovered after college, and what were, because we are right now at a very interesting juncture where we we have the opportunity, we have lived that life, we have the opportunity to tell people who are still writing their stories now, like who are in their first year, second year, third years in the college, like what they could do better, because now we passed that stage, we have that level of knowledge, and there is someone to receive and act on that knowledge as well. And maybe they can better while coming into the corporate life. So most of the discussion we should try to keep our points, our agenda related to this. Like what is the transaction like, when you move from college, go to a software company or a finance company, or any kind of startup, or maybe a company. So there, what are the things, what are the takeaways, what things you could do better? Like Ankit sir, you were focusing a lot on building human interactions, building soft skills. So basically, what are the things that you should acquire during your college life only, so that you do well when you go to your first company, second company, and slightly progress towards your main career goal. So let's try to keep that around that and around there, and then let's slightly tell us about our own journeys as well. uh, I like the way I started college in 2012. I was a EC, like electronics and communication engineering student. So there was like too many stories regarding coding. EC people won't get good jobs. These kind of things were there, and some of them are true also, because within India, the scope is pretty limited towards, like, if you directly want to work in Indian IT industry, so scope is pretty limited for electronic graduates. So and from the second year itself, I started coding, doing competitive programming and other kind of programming. And then after college, I joined Amazon. I was there for roughly 1 year or so. I was working as a SD in the merchant services team. So, like the same way, like I was not getting too much intrigued by the feature engineering. In like there is a feature given to you and you are building on it in software engineering. So I shifted my domain to data and ML. So currently I'm working in Google devices and services. So I like there's a 20% project concept in Google. So I work with Google Maps and YouTube as well. So I've been here with Google for more than 3+ years. Right now I'm working in the devices and services team as an ML and data engineer. Uh, so this is pretty much all about my journey, and let's basically start one by one with our journeys and words of advice. I don't have much words of advice for the current graduate, but I'll try to gain the advice. I'm still in the phase of learning, so it's been like 7 years into the tech industry. So part of the intention of moderation of this panel is to learn from you guys as well. So Raif sir, why don't you start? And
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. So I joined 2K5, passed out 2009, thank God, only 4 years. Yeah, so currently working as a senior advisor. So my journey is around like 13 years, 12 going to 13 years, out of which 8 years is in UAE, in Dubai, and the remainder of 4 years is here in Canada. So in my third year, I was lucky to get an internship there in UAE. When my parents used to be there in Dubai. So I used to go there often and try to go to offices and give my CVs. The market in Dubai is really hard to break into, and it's currently the same situation. So like I would go and there were days like people would say, why don't you send this online? We're going to only throw this in the dustbin. But back then there wasn't so much LinkedIn, and the only way in Dubai was to, have a face. You can't have call people on a phone and get a job or stuff like that. And the IT market is not really mature. So initially I started my journey with an IT company, ATOS, which is IT services. But slowly I realized that actually, because the IT market is not purely mature, it's a lot of services. And if I'm gonna be stuck into services, I might as well, move into other domains and apply IT there. So I got lucky and I started into this education firm which handled a couple of schools in Dubai. So in that process, 5 years there, I learned a lot on how to translate like educational requirements into, applications and what are the features and everything. But over time, I worked a lot with the Ministry of Education in UAE, and that got me really interested in regulations and how regulations will impact future systems in IT and how all of these things come together. But at that time in that was 2015, so I had 6 years done of my experience, and I had already pursued like a postgraduate from UK. So I was looking for a degree where I wouldn't have to leave my job and do. So I luckily found this degree from University of London, which I could like give the exams, but study here and go back and give exams in the university, and they would give me the full-fledged degree and not an online one, stuff like that, right? So that degree actually really helped in my process of immigration, first of all, in Canada. That degree gave me doctor points. So like you get points based on your degrees, you get bachelor's point, master points, but the bachelor's of law is considered a doctorate. So that gave me that point. Apart from that, what seems to be a problem anytime and this is my case, so the biggest disclaimer on the planet, right? You do same things as me, the results are going to be different. So these are just my pure experiences, right? What it seems is like no matter which market I try to enter, and a lot of my peers would agree, if you change geographies, it seems like an uphill battle to get the first job, to enter the market, to say, oh, do you have Canadian experience? I don't see Dubai experience, etc., etc., right? And those can be broken down by either degrees, but they need to be international because then they'll be accepted across all geographies. And if they're not, then the certifications do seem to be helping, especially in Canada. I can't speak of other places. Uh, so that would be my view on that, because it's always evolving. There is no respite. We have to evolve. We have to keep, and that's why passion comes into play, because evolving without passion is a task, right? So after that, when I moved here, I got an opportunity after 4 months. I moved in March 2020 to Canada. I moved 4th March. 14th March, COVID was full-fledged and they stopped all flights all over the world. So I had some difficulty getting into the market. In 2020, it took me around 4 months. But like, luckily, because of my earlier work with regulations in IT, I was, luckily picked up for government roles. So first I worked in the region of Peel, which is a municipal government, right bordering next to Toronto, who, has three cities and stuff, and I got involved in their housing project. It was like how they give houses to people who don't have houses, like social housing projects and stuff. And all of their housing projects, surprisingly, is derived from whatever law is passed in the parliament. So on a monthly, we would see some changes to the laws, which would, inform changes into the logic of the application. So that's a bit of a fun learning experience. And from there, I moved more into more data science, analytics stuff. Currently at Ontario Power Generation, where I'm a senior advisor. So it not only involves like the data, but the management of the data, the security of the data systems, and now currently, unfortunately or fortunately, they're really ramping up on AI laws. But the AI laws don't only cover everything AI; they seem to be covering everything like databases and what fields and columns and what privacy needs. So I work currently in that kind of field where I inform both the technical stakeholders and the legal stakeholders that, yeah, the system seems fine according to these regulations. So, so my advice on placements would be pretty much what everyone said. And I know it sounds very theoretical, but it's not. It sounds theoretical because it does not have short-term gains, and only through things which my peers we have heard about, for discover your passion, because it's really tempting to like follow the herd, especially when we're 20 and 21 and saying, oh, what are you going to do, or where are you going to join, and you're like, you don't have your own goals, you're more worried about what other people are doing. Don't do that. It doesn't matter. For example, when I told my peers that I'm planning to get a law degree, none of the people were like very like, oh yeah, that's an impressive thing, right? Like, you got to find your own journey. It's probably not impressive, but it's what I want to do. That's important, right? And what everyone else also keeps referring to, that luckily we were in triple ITA. They've given us everything we need. Now it's upon us to do. All right, we've got get in the advantage that we'll get a job. We'll always be fed. And once those Maslow's pyramids basic level is complete, then you can follow your passion, right? So nothing to worry there. So that would be my first advice. My second advice would be to pursue any higher studies only if you have interest in it.
Mm.
Don't think about masters as ROIs. Okay, because a couple of my friends, so before this call, I have to admit, I called a couple of my friends who are out here, NRIs. I didn't want to like give only severely biased views. So I called a couple of friends and ran a few points with them as well to make sure that we have some variance, but the points which everyone says, those are the points I like brought forward. Okay. So the other main point people said regarding masters was, one of my friend mentioned that he spent 2 years in masters expecting something, and in those 2 years, no one talks about the possible growth within one company a person could have had. So you've lost those 2 years trying to specialize in something, and then you go back with the expectation that I must be getting more money now, considering I spent so much money and time. That's not always true, and that's why it's not a perfect, uniform ROI. So only pursue masters when you're really, really interested in it, or any higher studies or any other degree. Feel free to dive into any domain you want. And that's the point, right? Like when competition's less abroad here, it's like anyone who understands AI can join an AI committee. In India, I couldn't join an AI committee. I'm not like so highly, I don't have a PhD. I don't have a master in science and data science to be in AI committee. But here in government organizations, if you just show interest, you're like, there are very few people who can even do this kind of stuff. So it opens a lot of opportunity that way. So learning from my experiences would be that effective communication is backbone. Like he said, like human life is all about storytelling. We learned our mathematics, our science, our books, everything is storytelling. Before it used to be people talking to each other in earlier times. They tell used to tell. So all of it is just building upon last knowledge. But what I think he was also emphasizing is to make sure you capture the attention of your listeners at all points. You might have a million things to tell, but do they really want to hear all of it? So you got to be concise, right? That would be another learning of mine. And because this one's a bit personal and it flows into the professional realm as well. So be agile and adaptable to different country cultures. So in UAE, there are like 200 nationalities working. Okay, like luckily 15% are only Emiratis, 85% are immigrants. Out of that 85%, 33% are Indians. So it's like an India with other nationalities also. So it's a really great place where, if you get a chance to visit or, get an opportunity there, it's a really nice place to like absorb a lot of cultures and understand where we come from. How do we know where we come from if we don't know what others look like? I mean, right? So be open and tolerant and like be like, don't be stuck. So this is one of my faults. When I went to the UK, I looked for my Indian friends, so it would be easy for me. I wouldn't do that if I had the chance again. I had Indian friends in Allahabad. Why did I do that there again? I could, but that would be one thing I would say. So be more open. And of course, the tech world is evolving. The irony is, how am I supposed to advise you when 10 years down the line, I don't know where the market is going right now? So there is a bit of irony there. And to beat that irony, we have to keep, learning and learning, and there's no way out like doctors. So that's all from me.
Thank you so much, right, sir. I think truly inspirational, and a lot of the things that I connected as well. I studied electronics and communication. I studied coding to get an IT job. Right now, I'm doing ML, and all of us are aware of there was a situation code red happened in Google when ChatGPT was live. So all the ML engineers were pulled into the large language model engineering works, right? So right now I'm contributing roughly 20-30% of my time into building large language models. But so we don't know what you studied, what you're going to do. It's all like continuous enhancement and continuous learning. And so I also really connected about having an open mind, because during the college and when we are coming from small towns, we tend to have not an open mind, like sharing a personal experience. Like in my batch, everyone was like Andhra people were trying to get rooms with all the Andhra roommates. UP people were all trying to figure out roommates from UP. So I think this is one thing which very intriguing thing that you pointed out during college. I think we should start to accept each other, have an open mind, understand each other's point of view. Maybe we can have differing opinions, but understanding each other's point of view, coexisting, that these are some of the skills that we should acquire a lot, right? So Ankit sir, the over to you. The floor is yours for more words of wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Raf sir. And yeah, Vatsal, I think I see there are 30 attendees. So I will just give some more specifics about um, my journey, and then I would try to provide some tips based on my learning, right? So, yeah, 2011, I got out of triple ITA. I got a software engineering job at Accenture within their banking sector, right? So these I did that for 1.5 years. While I was doing that, I was just doing that to, in all honesty, guys, to just do things. I was not sure. I was not sure. I was confused whether I wanted to do it long term or not. I was just figuring things out, right? I was in Bangalore, chilling, doing my work. But that's when I realized I don't want to be a developer. I don't want to be a core tech. I want to do something with numbers, finance, money, right? So I applied for this course, which was probably very easy to get into, an MBA course in IMT Ghaziabad. I got into that finance. Now went into that. Um, that's when I came in contact with DE Shaw. They liked me. Again, I was a novice there guy. I didn't even know credit, debit, finance, money, anything about that. 2 months into it, but they seemed to like me. I went. I guess I was good at talking, so they liked me. I went there, and that's when it clicked. I liked the firm. It was probably one of the biggest hedge fund in the world. You guys should Google about that and read what a hedge fund is with $60 billion under management. And I have been there since there. I didn't feel like changing my jobs. It's been an upward journey. I worked in Hyderabad. They gave me a full-time offer. I worked there for 3 or 4 years, and I was probably the youngest guy in the firm when they asked me to move to New York. And I am currently reporting to a person who reports to a CEO. So when I joined, it was a 300-person company we started, and now there are 2,100 people. Uh, 8 or 9 years into this, I'm right now reporting to a person who reports to CEO. I have catch-ups with CEO, CFOs of my firm. So you can imagine the magnitude on the journey had been, right? I never thought it would turn it like that, right? But see, as I said, right, when I was in Accenture, I didn't know, but I thought, okay, maybe chilling is the best thing and learning other stuffs was the best thing. I was doing that, right? I was trying to make most out of your time, not academic, but do something, right? But when I went into this, I was so into, I was doing all nighters in my firm, but I never even, uh, blink an eye because I tend to like this. So, bottom line, I'm trying to say again is figure out what you want to do. Right now, you are 20s, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever. It's okay to figure it out at 24, 25. It's okay to figure it out at 26, but figure it out, stay with that decision, do it passionately. You will get where you want to, right? In any part of the world. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I have. If there are any questions or anything in corporate, right? I already said I am a big proponent of, if you want to climb up the corporate ladder, learn to talk to people, learn to build connections. This is the single most important thing. See, once you are in corporate, guys, triple ITA the triple ITA degree is gonna help you for 2 years or 3 years in your job, right? After that, people are not gonna look at your college degrees. They are gonna look at what have you worked on, how you talk, right? Like your experience. This is what matters. So the sooner you start working on all the other skills as well. And someone asked me in the other chat, and I said, see, Chat GPT is here, right? They have these models which they are training to code, right? I am not saying developers are going to be obsolete, but my point is everything else except human emotion is replaceable, right? So learn to work on that skill. You'll get 90% of your success in corporate because of that, right? Coding is important. Technical skills are important. I also do code, but my core skills is I'm very good at selling things. That's why I'm here, right? My customers are here. So that's that. Learn to do that. Focus on that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ankit sir. I think pretty intriguing insights. Like one thing is you have to find a right fit for yourself. Try and fail. That failing is completely fine. That's Ankit sir also suggested. You will find the right fit. Sometimes some people fail a couple of times. Some people fail more times. Some people find the right fit in the first go itself. Right. So don't be afraid of failures, and try to find your right fit. That is one key takeaway which I would like to take from Ankit sir's insights. And now I think I would like to call Sunny sir. Sunny sir, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vatsal. I think most of the points which have been covered, and I can see a common theme in them. I think Ankit's also kind of covered a similar concept about how your degree only helps to an extent, and then it's all your soft skills and what you've learned as an overall personality. A couple of things that I think we can do better. For example, I was reached out by a couple of students privately about how to break into finance, for example, right? When I joined Nomura, I basically got some people in my batch as an interns, and I realized, for example, that some of them had already done a first level of CFA. Now, CFA is basically a professional kind of a program, chartered financial analyst, doesn't matter. The point is, it is a program that kind of puts them a little bit ahead of me in the same group, right? I know coding, they know coding, but they have a little bit more experience around what finance entails or what different, arms of finance could be. And that's a very simple thing, but I had no clue, right? No one told me. I hadn't even heard of the program, to be honest. But that's where I think our college is now improving. I mean, we're obviously not that old, right? We're like, what, 20, 22, 23 years old. They were coming from IITs, which have like 50, 60 years of history. So obviously their alumni base is stronger and they know what they should do to kind of stay ahead of the curve. And I think that's where alums can come into. That's where like I can share my experience, or others here are sharing their experience. And that's where I think students should take inputs from us. Like, those things matter. If you are seriously interested in getting into finance, for example, you have to stand out, right? You're competing with a lot of other companies, a lot of other firms, students who are actually trying to get into the same thing. How do you stand out, right? So that's one of the things where I would say you should basically consider, like, what can you do, what courses can you do, what professional accreditations can you do to stand out. Another thing which I want to highlight, I think there's a question here, I think Shubham asked or someone around, for example, breaking into ML. Like I think some people are basically in roles where they feel like they're stuck, right? And they want to do something different, but they're not able to move, or they're wondering how to make a move. I want to highlight, right? For example, when I was working at Morgan Stanley, I was on a comfortable package. Everything was good. I was in India. I was getting a decent job opportunity. However, I decided to move to city, and as I mentioned, I moved to Belfast, right? And I actually took a salary cut. I mean, when I say salary cut, it's more like what you would, it's not obviously that you can't convert like a 1 crore salary of the US straight into like India. It's not the same, right? It's living standards adjusted and stuff like that. So when you do that, I actually kind of took a pay cut, and that's simply because I wanted to explore something more important, and I thought, okay, I can compromise a little on money. So and that's something which I think students should keep this in mind, right? I mean, you have to sacrifice or compromise on some things, and it's not just for like going for a different kind of a role, like people getting into entrepreneurship, right? They take years and years juggling between, can I leave my full-time job and actually do this? And sometimes it costs you years. Well, should have something you should have done much longer before, right? So that's one of the things which I think people should keep in mind, right? That when you're trying to do something new, for example, if I'm a guy today, I want to break into, let's say, bioinformatics. I don't know anything about it. They're not going to hire me at executive director role in bioinformatics, right? No, I'll probably have to start a little lower, maybe like an analyst or associate even. So yeah, there's a salary cut involved there. But if I truly believe that's my passion and that's where I'll succeed, I will succeed there. You will catch up. Like it'll take you 4 or 5 more years maybe, but eventually you'll become an executive director in the bioinformatics field and you'll do something that you love, you know. So I think that's for me a very important takeaway, that at the end of the day, you have to be willing to sacrifice something, and it should be very clear in your thought process onto what you really want to do and where do you want to see yourself 5 or 10 years down the line. One more thing which I want to talk about is the fact, I think, around when you apply for university, right? Because I've gone through the process, I think I can share a little bit insight around this. There are some of you who will appear for, I don't know, masters or MBA or those kind of things. And by the way, this is all international. I never applied for like CAT or something, so I don't know much about IIM process. But if you're applying abroad, or for the matter, even to ISB, that's also where I applied. Uh, so while they do focus on your academics, and that's where Triple IT obviously gives you those brownie points, right? You only get those points for like a good institute. You're done, sorted. But that's also true for like a lot of other students, right? So then again, it starts into how do you differentiate yourself, right? And I think, I don't know who, I think Ankit or someone had pointed about, for example, working for charities, non-profits, it might sound something very basic, but honestly, it is something that people are looking for. And that's simply because outside India, especially, companies and recruiters and colleges, they actually give a lot more focus on what kind of social impact you make or you are making with your firm, without your firm. And that's also something which even recruitment firms are looking at. Like Goldman Sachs has a whole program into social impact, for instance, right? So any work that you do, any kind of, it's like utilizing your time better, right? So if you have, everyone has those 24 hours a day, and everyone likes to chill, everyone likes to, I don't know, play Counter Strike, NFS, whatever the games are these days. Yeah, that is important. Let's do that, but let's also try to take some time out to build your career, right? Build your overall personality. And if I could go back to uni days, that's something I would do. Like I would like to spend some more time doing this. And I think if there's something which, for example, the college can actually force upon the students a little bit, just to make sure that there is something that students can add to their profile, like be a part of something. Like you have to, for example, take some extracurricular stuff along with the college, right? That's something which people out here I can see have it, because in their school curriculum itself, like they're forced to learn 3 4 languages, right? They're forced to know an instrument, for example, right? And those things make them more interesting as individuals. There's a lot more that they, you can talk to them. So when their CV comes for like a business MBA application, they just seem more interesting than us, even though they may not be academically that sound. So when you're competing, you need to, otherwise what happens is that if you're a male IT engineer, for the matter, even a female IT engineer from India, you're kind of in a bracket that people don't really want, because there's just so many Indians. Like when I joined LBS, I think like 40 50% of our batch was either Asian or like British Asian, right? So you're not exactly in a very desirable kind of a world. You're not, unfortunately, because people look for diversity, and obviously Indians are everywhere. So if you have to stand out, you have to basically make your application do something different. And that something different is up to you, whatever challenges you, whatever hobbies you have, but definitely add something to your CV. So that's basically my 2 cents on this.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Sunny sir. I think few intriguing advices are like, keep working on yourself, work on self improvement, apart from academics, apart from, building, problem solving aptitude. Try to do some extracurricular stuff as well, which can make you stand out. And I think the college provides ample of opportunities. We have different kind of clubs right now. They are called societies. We have that initiative called Prayas, where we used to go to nearby village, teaching the children. So I think those are some of the stuffs which I think which give satisfaction, as well as they give they improve you, make you better as a person as well. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to call Gagan sir. Gagan sir, the floor is all yours. And sir, just try to add 1 or 2 points that, let's say I am a second year triple IT student. What should I do to, what should you be advising me to do, 1 thing or 2 things maybe, so that I can benefit when I move out from the college and enter into the corporate world.
Okay.
Gagan sir.
Sure. Hi everyone. So I'll try to in the digital, I'll just skip my journey basically. I'll just dive in the advice part. We can connect later on also for this thing. So if I have to give advice for me, so let me give you an anecdote what happened to me while in the placement process. A lot of time I passed the aptitude rounds and the coding rounds, which was when standing interview or any other platform it happens, and I was getting rejected at the later rounds, maybe the final, the second final round, and I hated that walk, from visitor hostel to boys hostel, getting rejected again. I did that for 7 8 times, and that to all the top companies. I simply hated that time, and it was just bad. And looking back, one of the mistakes which I made was I treated the interview as a question and answer session, whereas it's a discussion. Tell your thoughts, communicate. I think Ankit sir was trying to tell that as well. You need to communicate everything, what you're thinking. Maybe you don't have a perfect solution in mind. That's okay. Communicate. And it's not that when I say communicate, you have to talk all the time. You can take a pause for, but it is not okay to just go into the zone of, okay, let me figure out a solution and come back after 5 10 minutes and hey, okay, this is what I'm thinking. This will not impress interviewers at all, because interviewer is out there to select you. Okay, they have a certain criteria. They have came with a mindset to select. They will try to help you. So don't ever, just communicate these things. Don't be like me. I realized this later on when I started taking interviews. Okay, this was what I was doing wrong at that point of time. And The interviews which I got before that, I was just very casual. I did not want to go into those companies. I got selected into InfoEdge and then into Hike Messenger. These are both the companies I did not want to go into. I actually acted very casual, and that time I realized by being casual, I was being more communicative and everything. That was actually in my favor. That worked out. It's not I did not have the technical skills. It just I did not know how to communicate myself, and there's where I really would advise you take Ankit sir's advice really, and this will help you out really. It's a personal item. So, and as an action item for what you can do, obviously, these things are important. So, what my friends and we do that we started practicing in talking in English for at least half an hour. If you're weak in English and everything, this is going to be critical. Maybe you'll pass the interview, but to grow further, you will need that communication. You will need to talk and everything. Uh, get maybe once you're in the like say fifth or sixth semester in the third year, try getting a mock interviews done, not by your peers because they will only judge you on by coding. Get someone who's experienced. There are a lot of platforms which are there will help you. Like I think Exponent is one of them. So use those, leverage those platforms. They will do that for you. So get some mock interviews done for yourself. Where it's just more than coding for you, and it's by some experienced persons. And I think you've heard a lot of stories about people, how they went to the job, they were not happy, they changed their trajectory and everything. And that's true. I mean, when you will be applying for placements, you will have a lot of social comparison. You will see your friends getting there, and if you're not able to crack it, it will feel like a letdown. It will feel like this thing, but it's just a setback. It will not define your career. Career is your 10 year, 20 year, 30 year down, long term trajectory there. So it's okay if you fail at that stage. And, definitely, if you fail it, that's you will get your dream company. I got rejected Google, and when I tried on campus placement, I was sad about it, and I never thought that I was good enough for Google to practically. Now I am in Google right now. So you will get there. It's not that, you'll not, it's just a setback. It's nothing else. I did not, when I joined startup, I was thinking, along the line that I want to be in a role where I can see features being developed, like, an app kind of thing or a website kind of thing and everything. But when I joined this thing, I did not enjoy that in Hike too much. I hence joined back as backend engineer in startup called Zapper, which actually got acquired recently. So I'm just saying it's okay to fail there. On-campus interviews are not the end of your career or a defining moment for your career. It's a setback, I will agree, but you will get lots of opportunities. So don't put too much pressure on yourself if you're not able to crack it. It's okay. It's actually these are the moment that semester is the last time you get to spend your time with your friends in a very irresponsible way. I would say there are no responsibilities and everything. So try to take enjoy, uh, it just enjoy the time as well. It's okay. Fine. I mean, you will be there when you're there. Uh, Lastly, people who want to get into very core tech roles, I think you will be doing gigs or gigs and lead code. Try for breadth there, that you may have knowledge of graph, strings, array, bit manipulation, everything, rather than just ensuring that, okay, I will only do DP, but the hardest problem possible. Try to go for breadth with a medium difficulty rather than hard to hard difficulty in one single area. And this bias will creep in very innocently in you, in the way you pick up problems and everything. So make sure you go for breadth here, because you never know what's the preference of an interviewer is. If the interviewer likes
Yeah.
strings and you like, for example, DP, for example, and these are not mutually exclusive, but for example, let's take this mutually exclusive, and they ask you, you'll be stuck. So there's no point in doing that ultimately. Uh, and lastly, not a second year, but as a fourth year, what advice I can give, sometimes the companies or HR will try to trick you with questions like, it happened with me. I got an offer from InfoEdge. I was in last round of InfoEdge, Naukri.com. They asked me, if you got an offer from Google, what would you do? And the answer is very obviously 2014. It's Google. Obviously, you join that company. And in that case, you can be upfront about that, where the answer is very clear no. Because if you say or try any bullshit over that, they will just call you off. I'm not asking you to be very candid here. Like, why do you want to join? Have a good answer for that. Okay, why do I want to join InfoEdge? It connects people with it's exciting mission. But sometimes you know they're going to throw a curveball at you, and you don't have to be always like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, to them. And that's fairly okay to that. These are the 3-4 tips I would like to give for placement.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gagan sir. The most powerful sentence was, "It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail, and then learn from that failure. Evolve within your, evolve as a person, and don't worry too much about where you start. Like, hopefully, and it's if you are from triple IT, it's very clear. Like sooner or later, like 2-3 years down the line, you'll all be on the similar kind of trajectory. And now I would like to call Rishabh sir. Uh, Sir, the floor is all yours.
Sure. Thanks, Vatsal. Uh, Nothing distinguishing from my side, but 2-3 things that I would like to add. First one is uh, doing what you love. So I also joined as a software engineer, but then I really didn't enjoy it because I didn't enjoy, I was not very good at it. Although I could write logic gates, things were fine, but then it was a task for me. So my mental health was not very good. So there I took the decision of doing my MBA and then later moving to product role, which turned out good for me and I'm good at it. So this is one learning. Try to explore and then whatever fits you, just go with it. The more important part, which I related what Gagan just said, for students, how to crack interviews and then uh, taking it as a casual or sort of the first interview that I cracked, before that I had around 9 or 10 failures by going into in the interview round and then getting rejected at a later point and then doing walk of shame to the boys hostel. So that was all there. But then the first one that I cracked was, somehow I imagined it as a coffee with Karan show where there was that interviewer who was talking to me and I was just relaxing and then I was sitting back and then giving answer and then he was really impressed. So my same advice to you guys, try out these communication skills. So it is very important. Whatever you are thinking, it should communicate. You should communicate, and then there are people. So people skill comes into it. So you have to sort of relate to that interviewer. So now also when I take interviews, I'm not there to reject it. I'm there to select. So you have to sort of be there, or you have to be communicating with me constantly so that I have to relate to you. And of course, you have to be good at coding, and then those skills are there. But then these are the things which separate you out. And one more thing, I also saw one question in how to progress in corporate, or how to go to those EM and VP roles. So there are generally two kinds of role in any org, especially in tech. Either you are an individual contributor or you are a people or sort of a project collaborator where you have to collaborate with multiple stakeholders. Of course, when you are an individual contributor, you have to be very good at your skill set. You should be a very good coder. You should be, or whatever, or product manager, or whatever the skill set is required. But I think in both of these cases, you have to be good with people. So people skill comes there no matter what. So if you have to grow into a leadership role, you should be good at people, because ultimately how much contribution your individual work can do. So these kind of a role comes in very less, where you can make a very big impact by just individually contributing. If you are able to manage 30 people, 50 people, or multiple several projects, which comes in again when you are multiple handling multiple projects, you have to interact with multiple people, and then you should be able to communicate well. So my advice, when you want to rise in your corporate environment, as well as cracking interviews, You should be good at communication skill. You should be good at storytelling, and whatever the Ankit sir point out, I totally agree. You should be good at these skill, and then you should never let go of your core skill set. So if you are good at coding, coding is your core skill set, then you should keep being good at it. If problem solving is, then that is given. But then these are the additional things which sort of catapult into the other trajectories which one aims to, the leadership roles which you aim. Yeah, that's it. Any
Yeah,
other
thank you.
questions? Happy to look.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rishabh sir. So one question is, and I think maybe we can go in the reverse order as well. So two questions mainly, that's the theme of main questions that I've seen. One is, let's say you got into a role, now you're feeling misfit. Like you're feeling underpaid. Let's say this is your first job. Either you're feeling underpaid, or you're feeling you're not good for this part. So these two scenarios, these are the biggest scenarios when a fresher joins any corporate company or a tech company. One is either they are feeling that they are technically not proficient, they are maybe built for some other roles. The second one is maybe they are feeling they are not that well placed, and now they want to up the ladder, move to a better company or better place, or maybe switch countries. So what would be your advice? Like what will you do in that case? Like what will you advise them?
Okay, I'll take that up. So
Yeah.
I would say, let's say so there can be two scenario. I don't like the company or the role, but then I like the role of software development, let's say, but I don't like that specific role where things might be different. Just switch. Don't worry. Matlab, try to explore. It's
Yeah.
okay to switch multiple times in your early career, and then unless you find that particular sweet spot where you like the role, you like the company, you like the work, you should be eager to switch. Second could be you are not liking the role itself. You might not like that technical coding stuff. In that case, again, next would be switch. So try to switch roles. This could be a bit different, but then try to take on that voluntary work, or try to take extra work in your organization itself as a, let's say, project manager or product manager, where you can help out of your own interest. Other way breaking this barrier is joining small companies or joining a startup. So startup has these flexibilities of roles, different roles that you can take without having significant experience, right? So you can go by that route. You can turn to a small startup where you can try out with these different roles that you like, and then build your path accordingly. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Ankit sir, you have something to add to it.
I will just add, yeah, I'll just add. So, that happened with me. So within the firm in RCC when I was joined, I didn't like my initial role. But see, guys, very important, right? When you're starting something, you have to figure out. Let's say if you like the firm, like you like Google, you overall like the firm, get your foot in the door. Okay, what that means is start with something early in the career. Don't try to be very choosy, and I'll tell you why. Get your foot in the door, right? Let's say if you want to go into Google, but probably you don't like that specific team, it's okay. Get your foot in the door. Internal transfers are still very easy, and each of these good companies, most of the companies have a way to have an internal transfer, right? See, if a company trusts you, have seen you working for a few years, they can do anything. They will trust you and make you enable that internal transfer for you, right? So trying to switch to that role, as someone was saying, if you don't have an experience, uh, someone on the outside will be very less likely to trust you, or you might have to go with a pay cut or a level below, right? So my point is, get your foot in the door, work your way upwards. Internal transfers are also a very good way to get the role you want, right? So that is also one way.
Thank you, sir. And I think anyone else want to add to this point, right, sir, Pravin, sir?
Mm. Yeah, I'll tell one incident from one of my team. He was a software engineer. He wanted to become a research scientist. But he was afraid that within 3 to 6 months, he was around 6 months or 1 year experience. I don't remember exactly, but he's afraid that if it doesn't work out for him, he will lose that 6 to 1 months, and he will lose his edge in the race of software development. As a
Yeah.
He not had experience, other will do much better than that. Uh, we convinced him, hey, this is not a big deal. I mean, I know I don't want that, but if you want to try that, do that. And he tried that for 3 months, realized it's not, working for him, and that's okay. And then he came back, and today he's one of the best engineers which I ever worked with. So trying out different tools, I mean, it will be scary for you because you will be very young at that point, and it will seem like you will lose the race and everything. It will all go in your mind. And to be fair, because you have been a race in entire your life, when you have passed engineering entrances exam, the placements, all the time you have been raised, that thing is not going to go away instantly. You will feel that thing. But if I can only tell you stories to convince you that it's not really the case there. Uh, that's all I want to say. It's not a race. That's it.
Yeah. Thanks for the answer. And there's one other burning question that comes to everyone's mind, and particularly Sunny sir and Raif sir. I want your opinion. So a lot of the times, let's say if people are passing fourth year, they got some software engineering role. They work there for like 6 months to 1 year. Now they want to take a break, like take a break for their higher studies. They want to explore something else, maybe finance, maybe law, and then they have this kind of feeling that if, let's say, I pursued finance and if I failed in it, like meaning if I didn't got have that much interest during the masters, felt like, can I come back to the software engineering? So that is another one very uh, burning question that most of the graduates have. uh,
Uh, I
Sunny sir,
can
maybe
probably
you can. Yeah.
start for this
Sunny, you
one.
want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing is the definition of fail, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
for me, one thing is that what we define as fail, right? So for instance, one thing could be that, okay, I ventured into finance, maybe did a master's course, maybe did take a break and try to, do something in that field and didn't like it. I want to come back.
Hmm.
So first of all, software engineer, I think companies and most companies for that matter are actually quite open these days to getting people from different backgrounds, and I think, for example, even companies like Google, Amazon, they were actually pretty good with this. And now even companies like Goldman Sachs, for example, I mean, we literally hired a pianist at an analyst level, and we got him into software engineering role. So, my MD is actually an ex-SEAL guy, the Navy
Yeah.
SEALs that work for the US,
Yeah.
because I believe they're the best team builders guys, right? So the point is that people are looking at diverse backgrounds. So if you have done something for 2 years, and even it can be opening a startup or trying something different and it didn't work and you want to come back, I think most companies these days are very receptive. And there's so many startup visas as well. So I think, at least in my experience, I've seen that you shouldn't really have a problem getting back. Yes, obviously you'll have to still crack those interviews. You might have been out of touch, so it might take a 3 to 4 months to kind of prepare for the kind of companies you're getting into. But at the end of the day, it's all worth it. Like, that's fine. You'll definitely get an opportunity back. I don't think there'll be a hurdle in that respect. That's my opinion. Raf, sir.
Yeah, I have pretty much the same points, and I feel like when we are worried about jumping into a new role and we do something, that's harder than doing what you're actually doing right now. So just a bit of preparation. It shouldn't be a big deal. I have a couple of friends who never did computer engineering. They're like sound engineer and stuff. They're now in web application development stuff. Like you said, companies are super receptive. Having a network matters. If you want a better job than the one you had before as a software engineer, make sure your LinkedIn profile is great, you're networking with people, you're out there, and be more interesting. Like Sunny said before, especially abroad. It doesn't matter if you have 100% marks in something, but don't have 0% in something else, like communication skills. Better to have 90s and all, or 80s, That's what. So that's my view on it.
Yeah. Okay. Can we take some live questions, or we can go through, like, we are almost at time, so we have roughly 5 to 7 minutes. We can take some live questions as well, or should I go ahead with so basically we did kind of a survey where we collected questions, and like this we did like I think it was 6 to 7 months back from the college graduates only. So these were some of the intriguing questions. So one question is that what should be the minimum time period, and these are the questions. I cannot do anything about it, but what is the minimum time period to make a switch, like in a particular role? How much time should I stay for 1 year? Like people say just complete 1 year then move ahead or something like that. So like what are your views about it, Rishabh sir,
I
Ankit sir,
think
or
I'll just
yeah,
quickly take that
yeah,
one. So
yeah.
like it's very first of all worrying about times and if you're losing out,
Mhm.
like was mentioned by Gagan, there is no race. Then how
Yeah.
is there time? Okay. But the other thing is that if you're worried about how switching too many companies can mess with your profile in a market, which is a very valid problem in some markets and not in others. So in Dubai, changing jobs often represents that you're not very stable or very good. It might be perceived as that. But here in the West, in Canada, it's actually considered better that you have a broader experience. So there is a lot of variability according to the market, according to the roles you're in, and how much demand there is that you need to compute that at that very point, those kinds
Yeah.
of metrics for your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anyone else
That's
want to
from me.
contribute?
No, I
Thank you,
think
guys.
again that it's very market driven and absolutely
Mhm.
invest it's considered. But to the person who is asking that question, right? I want to so think of it. Why are you asking that question? What I'm trying to say is when you're saying what are you concerned about in switching roles? Are you concerned about money? Then switch role every 2 months in India. You'll get a 30%, 40% out. If that's your goal, what is your motivation to switch role? If your motivation to switch role is you're not getting a good work, switch role. That's absolutely fine,
Yeah.
right? If you have the skill, switch role. But figure out why you are asking that question. Why do you want to switch role, right? And don't be concerned about the markets are getting matured everywhere. Even Indian markets have a very, very high demand for talented individuals. So even if you are switching role and if you are able to back that with a story, the recruiter will take you in. Okay. So figure out why you want to switch that role and then do that move, right? And see, I didn't switch role. I have not switched role. I'm happy with my role. I'm getting to do. Able to add value. I'm happy with my work. But for you, find that reason and then go for it. Back it with a story. That's it.
Yeah.
I think one thing which I would like to add, because as someone who has switched multiple times, this is my fifth company. I think, as Ankit has said, if you can justify your switch with a story, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, story can't be I wanted more money. Like that's not, I mean, that's not really something you can sell. But the point is, at the end of the day, if you are not happy with the profile, and if every switch of yours makes sense from a entire your story point of view, then why not? Right? And every time it's not always that you'll be switching because you get a different profile. Like for example, my personal experience, when I switched to Goldman Sachs from Citi, I actually didn't even want to join. I was approached by an ex-colleague of mine with whom I had worked at Barclays, and he was now in Goldman Sachs and he wanted to work with me again, and he offered an opportunity. So it's not always that you are the one who are looking for it. Sometimes an opportunity just comes your way and it sounds better. So it's absolutely okay as long as you can justify it. And I think if you make 5 or 6 switches just based on money, then I think there's a different. I think it's like a more of a perspective issue. Then you have to kind of figure out that if that's really what you want to chase, because there's no end to it. To be honest, like every year that you don't switch, some company has offered 30% more to someone else, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, if money is your only motivation, it'll become tricky. But after some time, you'll realize that it's like almost everyone reaches at what levels they deserve or what levels they desire. It's not a lot of difference. It's not like Amazon is paying very different from what Google is paying versus what Microsoft is paying, because they have to retain talent. They
Yeah.
can't pay very different. So at the end of the day, I think just try to aim for what you're actually trying to do in a work profile, kind of a thing, and yeah, just work towards it. That's all. Build your story.
Thank you so much, sir. I think build your story and have a proper backup of reasoning when you're switching. But if you have a legit story, then I think it's perfectly fine to switch roles. The other thing I think which comes like which is also one burning question is, let's say if I'm comfortable in a particular role, what should I do during college or during my initial years of job? What should I do better to rise up the ladder, like get more promotions or you know uh, rising in your same role, current role that you are in? You are basically, so what are the things, like is it all about knowing the domain knowledge or anything else like soft skills, or if they can develop some of those during the college time as well? I think anyone can take up.
I I can fill in. So it might be controversial, but I would say, guys, early in your career, first of all, don't think about work-life balance. Initially in your career, you are young,
Yeah.
just work hard, and work with tough bosses, I would say, early in your career because you can afford to do that. What I mean by tough bosses are people who are driven by results, right? Like bosses who want results, who are knowledgeable and who wants result. I would highly recommend to avoid bosses who are 9 to 5 kind of people and appreciate that. See, you will get there. Eventually, you will get there. I am there. You will get there, but you can afford. Early in your career, you don't have to look for it, right? If you want to reach high up and early later on, work with people who are driven by results, like bosses who are driven by results, right? They are the best people to work initially in your career. I would not recommend to work with such people very closely later in your career when you are mid or senior level, but early in your career, definitely look for people. And I'll tell you, those people are so like bosses like that or leaders like that who are driven by results, right, help you grow leaps and bounds as well because they're very objective in your analysis. They would like, this person gives me a result, gets the job done, let him push him through, and you learn a lot faster and more than anyone else. That is my advice. That's what you should do early in your career.
Yeah.
Another
Thanks.
advice.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Into
Go ahead.
that, speaking of bosses, your manager is very critical to your growth, right? He or she will be your lawyer when it comes to promotion, everything. Look out for new opportunities, impactful opportunities, and these are all matters. So if you want to dress up it, ask him what is his or her problem that he doesn't has the time to solve for that. Maybe it's around designing a learning curriculum for the team. Now that's not really to the core technical work, but that will give you an edge for manage if you want to become a management. Let's say, there is some optimization, tech optimization that you always want to do, or some tech process you always wanted to do. But your manager doesn't have the time to allocate a bandwidth or something. So why not push extra and get that thing so that at least your manager can trust, okay. And you can become his or her right hand. Anyway, okay. I want information, I'll go to this person. I want something to done. This is there. Sorry, sir.
No, no, I'm sorry, definitely
Yeah,
complete.
so
But
I
yeah, I
think
mean,
one of the advice.
yeah, I think one thing which I would add to it is first, I definitely second what Ankit has said. I think this is something I've been noticing with like the latest batch of interns that kind of come over, that people are very concerned about, how long will I have to work? And I mean, when someone asks me this as a question about the firm, that, is the work-life balance good, or do I get to go home at 6 p.m.? Sometimes I start to, as an interview, I would judge the motive. I'll be like, is the person passionate enough? Like if you talk to anyone who is, for example, opened their own startup, do you think they care about working hours? Like they are breathing, they are, they're thinking about the firm entire day. And while I understand that if you're working for a corporate, you'll probably not be in the same space, I would not appreciate if you're asking me that question right away in the interview when you're knowing about the firm, right? So at the end of the day, when you are new, when you're young, I would think that you would be desperate. You would be like, hungry to know whatever you can from like not just me, not just your team, from even different teams. Because that's where you are learning. You're starting a new curve altogether, especially when you're coming to a different domain, right? So that's something which I think I definitely agree that people should keep in mind. And then coming around the work, the ladder kind of a concept, I think it depends firm to firm. Like, to be fair, for example, if you get into a well-established firm like Goldman Sachs, there's no shortcut. Like, you can't become an MD in, for example, 5 years unless you're doing something extremely exceptional, which is very rare. Like, there'll be a process. You'll be for spending first 2 years an analyst, then getting to associate VP, where all goes well, right? That's like a normal program that they kind of follow for every graduate that joins them. Same for Morgan Stanley, Citi, Barclays, at least these firms that I know of, right? Uh, One thing which I know is that if you really want to get more senior roles early in your career, join startups. I think that's one of the biggest advantages of joining startups. I've never worked there, but I think that's one of the best plus that I can see for myself. That, if you want something where you have a lot more responsibility when you're 23, 24, yes, I definitely agree. Joining into a startup kind of organization will help you get there, right? So if that is your passion that you really want to get into it, yeah, I think that's where you should work and not think about like stability or like something you have to sacrifice, right? I mean, if you go to a startup, yes, there is a stability risk, there is an income risk, there is a maybe a money risk, I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. So you have to choose something. What is the priority for you? That's my 2 cents on this.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I think sometimes taking initiative, as Gagan sir, Sunny sir pointed out, taking initiative, taking ownership makes you stand out of the crowd. So I think that can help a long way. So I think with that, I think we came to an end of this session itself. It's so interesting to talk to all of you. Like, whenever uh, I get to have this opportunity to talk to the seniors or the alumnus of our institute. It's like there is something, I don't know, there is some sense of belonging that I feel with all of you whenever I connect. Like we share a common background, so it like it for each one of you there is one distinct feature that I sometimes get a lot of energy. Like it's all positive energy that I've gathered from this session. And thank you all for joining and giving us your time. And like with your consent, we will share your LinkedIn profiles with the current students, so that they can respectfully reach out to you. And we'll advise the current graduates and students also to be mindful about our time as well, so that they can compile up the questions and maybe send on weekend, or maybe they can expect some amount of delay. But thank you all for coming back to the alma mater, trying to help all of us, and just trying to share the space, connect. Any other words, like, please feel free to chime in.
I think very good. Thank you. I think we were able to help provide some advices, and yeah, feel free to share my LinkedIn and my email ID. I'm happy to contribute, even one to one, if you need any mentoring or any other advice. I'm more than happy to help.
Sure.
Yeah, I believe everyone has those emotions here right now.
True.
Yeah,
Thank
true.
you. Thanks,
Thank you, Vatsal, for
yeah,
coordinating.
that's true.
Thank you. And this was amazing. Thank you.
Have a good day, guys. Bye.
Okay, thank you all. Bye. Have a
Good to
good
see
day.
you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye.